Now that we've made our quilt top, we need to layer it to make our quilt sandwich. You're going to layer your backing, your batting, and your quilt top together. Now for this one, I just used a scrap piece of fabric that I had for my backing. The same with my batting, just a scrap piece of batting that I had. Love to keep those scraps. All you're going to do is put your batting on your backing, and I like to have a little bit of room, usually about 1/2 inch to 1 inch around and away from my quilt top, so I have some room to navigate while I'm quilting. So once you have it all layered, we're going to use spray baste to baste it. And because I'm working in mini quilts, I tend to not tape down my backing, but if you're uncomfortable and feel a little nervous about it, you can totally tape down your backing. So I'm just going to fold my batting in half, use my spray baste, give it a couple of squirts, and then smooth out my backing and my batting, and then do the same thing on this side. And make sure you grab any loose threads, especially if you're using a light fabric. You'll see those when you're done. Ooh, okay. And then smooth out our batting and our backing, and then repeat for your quilt top. And again, this is a good time to check to make sure you don't have any loose threads and your light colored fabrics, because those will show. Smooth this out, and you want to make sure that you don't stretch your quilt top either, that everything lays pretty smooth and straight. Okay, and then do the same for this side. And when I'm making my quilt sandwich, my backing and my batting, I like to iron those pieces as well. So I iron my backing and I iron my batting. That just prevents any lumps and bumps when you're quilting. Okay, we're all set to start quilting. Give this corner just a little bit more. There we go. So we're going to do straight line quilting on this mini quilt, but we're going to add a little something to it called matchstick quilting. Matchstick quilting is straight line quilting, but it's super close to the previous line that you quilted. And you're going to see that come to life when we sit down at the machine. So my starting point, I don't tape anything out, I don't mark anything with a ruler. I'm actually just going to use the edge of my mini quilt top as a guide when I use my walking foot. And we've attached the walking foot to the machine here. Use coordinating thread. I'm using white for this project. And we've adjusted our stitch length to 3.5. I like to go anywhere between 3 and 4 for my stitch length. Nothing over 4 because it becomes like a basting stitch and it won't hold your quilt together. So we're going to start a little bit off of our quilt top, and we're using the edge of our walking foot as a guide for sewing our first line. Quilting our first line, here we go. And you're just going to follow the edge of your quilt top with your walking foot. Okay, and there's our first quilting line. Now what I'll do is I'll use the edge of my walking foot to repeat lines all the way across, and then after that I'll go back and add the matchstick quilting. So now we've added all of our straight rows of quilting, and this is totally fine. You could leave it just like this. You could add your binding and you could be done. But the matchstick quilting kind of ties into the improv effect that we did earlier. And matchstick quilting, we're just going to go in really close to the lines that we've previously quilted and add some like fun organic lines, if you will. So let's take it to the machine. And all you're going to do is just kind of come in close. You can use your walking foot as a guide if you want. If you want to use this notch in here, the notch on the inside, it's totally up to you. There's no really rules to this. And if you're a little curved or crooked, that's totally okay. That's the point of it. Here's our first line of matchstick, and you can see it's not perfectly straight. It's very organic. It's super close to the first line that we sewed earlier. And I'm just going to keep going, and I'm going to fill in some more. The one thing about matchstick quilting is the more lines that you add, the more dense it is, and it will change the shape of your finished quilt. So just keep that in mind. It could change it up to 4 inches. I tend to not quilt super dense. I don't really enjoy the look of it, but again, it's totally up to you. It's subjective. It's looking good. This could also be a time when you would change your thread color if you wanted to add a little pop. You could matchstick quilt in a different thread color. You could also change your stitch length to give it a little bit more interest. All right. There we go. It's all quilted. Looks great, doesn't it? And I love all the texture on the back and all the texture that the matchstick quilting creates. Super organic, there's no formula to it, you just fill in the spaces. So the next thing we need to do is trim our mini quilt. And hopefully our sides are still pretty straight, and they are, which is good. We're just going to trim this down. Rotate. And keep in mind with matchstick quilting, it will change the size of your finished mini quilt, and that's why I don't like to do it as dense. Still gives me a little bit of room to play. Okay. Using my cutting mat to line up the side and the top. Might come in a little bit and trim some more of this off. And then one last trim. Body looks lined up. And there we go. There's our seeing double 1/2 mini quilt, all trimmed up and ready for binding. Let's do that next.